Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's another beautiful Saturday here on Mount Schmoedown. We want to welcome all of you for taking time out of your day or evening or afternoon to join us for whatever times in the morning for all I know. But either way, welcome and thank you guys for being with us live or just rewatching it on a Sunday or a Monday or any time of the week. I'm one of your hosts for Mount Schmoedown, Ryan Payne, and on to my right is my other co-host, that is Ben Rayner. Ben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to talking today. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I do. And our other co-host for us would be John DeGreggio, but unfortunately, because weather and life decided to say, you're going to sit this one out. They decided to put him on the bench, but don't worry. Thankfully, with us being part of the Schmoes in the North, we got so many brothers and family to ever reach out and join us whenever they can. And today it is no different. You would see Soda with us, but now today we have with us Taco. Taco, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm normally in like dad mode. I'm alone with my kid normally on weekends, so that's why I'm usually just watching your guys' show, and I never have a chance. And then when I found out my wife was going out of town and taking the kid with, I told everybody. I immediately asked Ben. I'm like, Ben, put me on my Schmoedown. Like, I want to do as many shows. So this is show 3 of 4 today, and I need a nap, but I'm ready to talk about the dungeon, man.
Yeah, what better way for you to be on here? For all of you who are just joining us or learned last week, or at least starting this month and going into August, we're going to be taking a break from talking about normally Schmoedown players of past and present. We're going to be talking about factions, because after the introduction of Season 7, thanks to the nuke from Robert Burnett, factions have become now a permanent staple for the Schmoedown. Last week, Ben and John, we talked about all the great factions of the past, from the Lion's Den, Viper Squad, all iterations of the Four Horsemen to the Fife Club, and it didn't dawn on us until we never got to talk about the dungeon, because before Season 7, they also had themselves a rise to prominence in Season 6. So this is kind of a good way to bleed this through, because we're going to talk about them in Season 6, 7, and now. And just going on with it, of course, with the dungeon, we all know the main face of the dungeon, who actually liked me calling him the godfather of the dungeon, John Kaiser. When we had him on with us, we were talking about Kevin Smets. And I think the great thing about Kaiser is that even though he is literally the face of the dungeon, honestly, because you can't think of dungeon without thinking of Kaiser. I mean, you can think of so many other players who have been part of the dungeon, but Kaiser is definitely one among the first person or the first 3 people you think of.
Absolutely. He is the face. He and Spencer like, one who can compare. And we remember a fellow fan and a fellow swimming person, he's like 50 Shades of favorite Timon and Pumbaa. They're like, they go together like Timon and Pumbaa. They're brothers. And it's amazing to see them really adoption their team. And I can't wait to get Smets back next year so he could rightfully gain his place again. Taco, what are your thoughts about the dungeon?
Well, they're exactly where you start, right? Is Smets and Kaiser, because this team all started with Smets wanting a mouthpiece, or they've been friends before. It wasn't like they were just put together. And I believe it was Kaiser. I think even on your guys' show said that that Harloff gave him like a minute warning, like, "Hey, by the way, you're being Smets' hype man. We're filming tomorrow," and he's like, "Huh?" And I remember the second I remember the second we met these guys, I immediately loved both of them. I wasn't sure how to feel about Smets because I don't like hockey before I could see how good he did. But of course, after the first match, I was corrected. But Kaiser's shtick is my favorite, and he's so different from everybody else we've had up until this point. He doesn't look like the guy you can take home to your mom. He's not a pretty boy. He's not a nerd in a suit. You know, he's like this old school guy you're going to run into a mosh pit in like a grunge concert at like a Melvin show in Seattle '93. And I love him for that.
He's like, kind of the guy I would come across at a concert, probably like in the parking lot, like he's probably selling me scalp tickets or, DVDs or CDs. And I'm just going, I don't know if I want to buy it from you, but the way that you're selling to me right now, I'm absolutely digging it, that kind of thing. And even at times, the personality comes across that sometimes you just want to smack him across the face for being so brash.
I love him. He's one of my favorite. When it comes to his insults of how they're so childish, but he says it with such he says "dicky doo" the same way that a person would be saying the F word. He could be. It sounds like he's saying it with such conviction. He's like, "Listen here, dicky doos." It's so good. And the second we met both of those guys, I was like, keep these guys in. I thought they were too cool to be in the Schmoedown. And I'm so glad they both stayed before the faction started really growing.
And they do give you that impression, especially early on with when we touched on this with Kaiser when we had him on. You're talking about one of my favorite matches from Smets' run was him and Jay Washington. Just the Twitter and Facebook back and forth between Kaiser and Jay Washington, between the two of them. And the promos of both of those guys gave was amazing.
Oh,
and then going on in just with Kaiser, knowing... if he was just a mouthpiece alone, that he would have been immediately a great Schmoedown personality. But we do see later on in season 6, he also has the mental genius of being a manager too. Getting Paul Oyama, an early rookie, to be part of the dungeon, and we do see exactly how far Oyama went in season 6. Beating Dan Murrow within 4 matches. Fourth match, plays with Dan Murrow, becomes champion, defends in New York. Yes, he does lose in Spectacular, but even then, throughout pretty much through 10 months out of that year, Paulo Yama was, without a doubt, a rising star and a hot ticket that Kaiser no doubt took advantage of, or got an opportunity. And of course, getting Eric Zipper, who's storyline. Yep. I do love that cutscene where he finds Zipper just walking along with a handmade those little runaway bags, and he's just like, "You need to get out of the gutter, man." And he's like, "I got a partner for you." And then teaming Yama up. That was the most interesting pair. We only got 2 matches out of them, but it was still a very interesting pairing between those guys.
Yeah, and I think they went up against Looney Bin, right? Yeah,
they went up against Looney Bin the first match. Yeah,
and that's unfortunate because we all learned what Tom was, and man, do I miss that man. I always wish he got onto the dungeon. I always liked him and Kate's dynamic, but I think it would have been great if he got down to the dungeon. But
we got the next thing. We got video 2 on the dungeon. Right?
Yeah.
No, great, but still, it would have been amazing during that draft where Tom and Drew still got drafted together onto the dungeon. Well, Video Drew did get drafted to the Burning Jersey.
She got traded up.
Yeah, she got traded to the dungeon. But even then, if the Lumen did not break up and they were drafted together just like Real Rejects were, just for the fun, seeing Kaiser interact with Drew and Tom, it would have been overload on my brain, honestly. So much overload. But even then, the dungeon was still very fascinating to watch. The fact that it really was a strong winning faction early in season 6. You had Smets dominating, you had Paul Yama dominating. Zipper went from being an Air Geek and a Teams player to becoming a 3-division player by winning against Haley Fouch, and then moving on forward, him teaming with Oyama. He was actually on a good fast track of winning, but then of course he ends up losing. He ends up losing a teams match. He loses in an Inner Geekdom match, but still, Kaiser really showed that he put together a strong, small unit. So by the time the announcement of factions were happening, it made so much sense that Kaiser would keep the dungeon moving forward. Honestly,
yeah. I want to bring something up. It's only slightly off topic. It's about a dungeon guy, but if we rewind a little bit to that summer, I remember the day, in my opinion, the IG changed again. The IG tournament changed IG. But the moment it changed again was when Hector Navarro played against Smets. And that whooping he put on him. And that ending when he answered Hector's question, Hector gets it wrong. They're like, no, I don't remember what it was, but he answers it and then like walks up like, give me Mike.
It was a Middle Earth question, I believe, because Hector had spun something, but he was going to keep it. Then he was told by, well, he was kind of influenced by Emma and the crowd to spin again. He lands on Middle Earth and he just misses question after question, and Smesh, and then he misses it. Yeah, Smesh just says, give me Kalinowski. Like, damn.
Yeah. And I was like, something just happened. When that happened, I was like, this is a former IG champion just got demolished. This isn't the same league it was only like a couple months ago. Dwalin, now give me Kalinowski. Thank you, Leo.
Yes.
That's exactly, and that was amazing. And that's all a testament to how I felt about Dungeon. I've been a Dungeon head since it came in. And last year was so rough for me. And then I'm glad that everyone jumped back on the Dungeon bandwagon, but I do feel like I have the best seat in the house because I'm the only one who didn't leave the theater.
I will admit though, like you, I became a Dungeon fan after the Washington match, but it was that Navarro match that sealed me in, especially the promos again. The post promo, when he takes a shot at Hector because at the time he had a show Hyper RPG, and he says, "We know what RPG stands for: regret, pain, and grief." Just the best one-liners that he was dropping was incredible. And I told Kaiser on our episode, my famous one was still when Smet said when they went against Navarro, Kaiser just threw me in the dungeon and force-fed me nothing but red vines and Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yes.
It was just so good.
I remember when they first started using Dungeon because it wasn't used right away. And the first time I heard him say it was like during conversation, but it sounded like I had no clue what they were talking about. I didn't know it was a faction name. And it's like, oh, we're going to take you and we're going to bring you down to the dungeon. And I was like, these guys are talking about guys. Like, I didn't realize it was the name of the faction. I was like, that's a little messed up, man. What are we talking about here?
I had no idea either. I just thought it was like, oh, it's because I wondered Kaiser was a big wrestling fan, and he's trying to be like, I'm gonna bring you like Stu Hart's dungeon, tying it back to wrestling, and like, oh, this is just him saying, oh, I'm gonna bring you down here, we're gonna teach you pain, and then we're just gonna throw your ass back outside.
I forgot about this. Of Hector coming in all love. That was so genius because they're so serious, and he came in like, ah. Oh my god!
It was like,
thank you, Brian. I totally didn't remember that. I could just go on about just that how strong that early dungeon was, and then if you don't mind, I'm gonna bring us on to the next year.
No, that's perfect. I was thinking of a way to transition as well.
They had a high risk, high reward idea, and it didn't go the good way. it was the idea of, hey, we get more points for IG. We get more points for specialty. Yeah, yep. So let's go specialty, and it just didn't work out, and it's so sad. And if you look back at the people they drafted, like Parker, like there's still people we consider great players. It just didn't work out.
That's a good one, 50. Smiths. Well, honestly, no, actually Janine, because Janine debuted with Washington in her corner.
Yeah,
Washington was already in the Schmoedown as a player, but it was his first time becoming an actual. Well, after with Brienne and Stacy, Janine debuted with Washington in her corner though. But I get what you mean, 50. Like because Kaiser and Smith debuted at the same time.
Not as amazingly because we didn't see Roxy at all, but technically she was the league's manager when Kalinowski came in right away, and we just never saw her as a mouthpiece at all.
Yeah, Roxy and LaQuastro were of course, these movies that came together. You don't see them in cutscenes. Yeah.
Well, I feel like you didn't see Roxy barely at all, and then was it LaCosta?
Yes.
Came in, and I remember his first speech. I was like, who is this dude? Like, because he came in like after a match and just dropped bombs.
Oh yeah,
and I
knew how to throw sick fucking promos. Honestly,
dude.
No, don't forget, that's where KO came from. That's where Mike started.
That's the Mike I miss, honestly. I do. Look, character-wise, I'm enjoying this Mike from Corruption, but I miss the Mike from the League because I was coming in the Schmoedown at that same time, and I liked how he still had that swarmy-ass attitude, but he was humble enough to accept when he played
super punchable.
Yes.
Yeah, he was super punchable. But I
He
also
was but you respected him that you wouldn't want to punch him. This Kalinowski, like, I don't respect you at all. I want to slap you inside the damn face.
That's what he wants, though. And this isn't the Kalinowski episode, but he also bringing in gifts, and he always brought something, and he did the cosplay, and he owned his insults. Somebody called him white bread, so then he brought in some white bread in his next match. Like, that's some funny stuff.
When Brienne dressed up as Harley Quinn to make fun of the fact that he was, because he missed pudding, what happens after he wins? He brings pudding and throws it on the ground. That was the Mike I love. He owned his mistakes. But then, of course, I don't mind this Mike, too. Like eating lollipops as if, he's about to star in a softball. Oh, I'm going to stop myself here.
No. Guy's best insult ever. That doesn't look the way you think it looks.
Throwing a pop, standing there deep throwing a lollipop.
He's sitting there doing it, and Guy's like, that doesn't look the way you think it looks right now. Like, you're thinking it's looking badass, but it's looking a little. And
then just double fisting ice cream cones.
Oh my god!
I love KO and I love KO with Chance, but a part of me really wishes we got that Mike and Brienne team.
True.
Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Schmoedown. Yep, I thought it was going to happen.
You bring us back home.
But tying Mike back in with the dungeon, what best rivalry that really solidified the dungeon as a dominant team was the dungeon versus corruption, because of that rivalry between Smets and Kalinowski. Kalinowski beats him at Collision called the Don't Tell Peter. Smets comes back with a vengeance and knocks him out at Spectacular.
I forget that's a knockout. That's a knockout. Yeah, that's a knockout. Was it a TKO or was it a knockout?
No, it was a knockout because he was ahead by 7 points. They got into the speed round. Mike missed a question. Smets got 2 questions. Then Mike missed again. And then Smets got 1 to make it an 11-point win. And Mike took that so hard. He left midway through, like he had other promos he was supposed to shoot, and he just walked out. Yeah, that was some rough stuff. It really was upsetting because that year, I mean, of course, Ben and I, we're definitely going to talk more about this when we get to corruption, but that year was definitely corruption's year, Mike's year. With him beating Smets, propelled him to become IG champion. Then he
Anarchy tournament.
Then he becomes teams champion, and then the process of Mikey 3 belts, like, that was his year, and then he goes from having 2 belts, potential 3, to end up with none. And no disrespect to Mike, that's just how everything went. But all that started by beating Smets, though.
Yep.
that just shows a great beginning. That was like a great turnaround for both of them because Smets humbly accepted that loss, realized, okay, I start thinking more when answering. And even Kaiser, you saw him be humble in defeat.
Let me ask you something. Because I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Was that the last match of corruption not managed by Shannon?
Well, technically Shannon wasn't involved. Shannon, at Spectacular, that's when Shannon officially made herself the manager of corruption. It was still Grace and Ken. But I see what you mean.
Everything after that is under Shannon now, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much, I think, along the live show in San Diego, when Mike had said that Shannon was in his corner, then came into Orlando where she was a de facto manager because Grace and Ken couldn't be there. But yeah, that was when she officially made herself manager for corruption at Spectacular during the nuke.
And then she drafted for him. Yep. Anyways, well, I'm glad we're now. Can we just change the thumbnail to the corruption day? Because we're not.
Anyway, all of these every faction we're going to talk about has crossed with corruption.
They
have weaved their way around corruption. So believe me when we say this is not going to be the only time corruption is going to come across our lips.
Well, they piss everybody off, and they're really good at what they do. They're really good at what they do.
Let's talk about people good at what they do. But time back to what you said with Kaiser's choices for season 7 when he drafted. Yeah, I mean, he made a very strong stance how he wanted to be IG focused by getting Smets first, obviously, and then drafting Parker. And Parker really was a big statement because I've seen Parker play in families. I've had an opportunity to play him in an exhibition match. I know how good he is. So when he got picked, I was like, "Yep, that belt's staying with the dungeon." And then the other picks they got, he gets Zipper back. He gets the Butcher Boys. I mean, like Vinny Mancuso. I forgot how his Owen. I remember went through the entire thing. But the people he was drafting, he really wanted to be focused on IG and teams, what it looked like. And it looks like it was going to be that start. Then, of course, what the hell happens? 2020 decides to do a Noah's Ark on all of us and keep us inside for days on end while the tidal wave of COVID just sweeps across us. And then we do see some of the faults that fell into Kaiser's plan. He didn't have, at a time, a strong Star Wars player. Did he even have a Star Wars player? Because I don't remember him.
Who did he put in? There wasn't there was a Star Wars tournament last year.
Yeah, there was. The first one that was on Twitch. Because Kelly Sullivan, there was Cabrera, obviously.
Oh, yeah, Witt.
That's right, Witt. Of course.
Witt.
Witt.
Yeah, because I don't know why my brain thinks Witt came in this year. It's Star Wars. Witt was in then. He played. He played Sullivan.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yes,
and then he came in and just didn't win.
And then he played Molly Damon in the tournament. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Witt is. That's another face I see now that can associate with the dungeon. Witt.
Yes, and I think of Witt as being his MVP, even with you when you got people like this. Like I don't want to jump ahead too much, but now with the caliber of players they have underneath, I would think of Witt as being the first guy you call out of all that. Like, he's your number one. He might not be your best player, but he's the most likable. He's really intelligent, especially when we saw him be a manager 2 weeks ago or whatever. Witt's your guy, and I think Witt's top. Of this year, but I think of Witt as the de facto. I know Ben Bateman's technically the captain or whatever, but
he's the captain.
but Witt is just like how Barbarian is. I think of Witt as being your real second in command over there. We could go back the last year if we want.
No, but that ties into it because Witt also did some managing last year as well when Kaiser wasn't around. Witt really became a breakout star in the dungeon, even though his record doesn't show it. I mean, so Star Wars. I mean, for Christ's sakes, his Dalte Dufresne 5-pointer is still a fucking memorable moment because that tied in to that great promo he had with Molly Damon and even his match against Molly. I mean, Christ. That you talk about Upset City. We went from before we got to Upset City. We had to stop at Challenge Town or Challenge Country because of how many challenges were thrown out between Molly and Witt.
That was it Sam was managing Molly last year?
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, it was Sam.
Yes, Sam was managing Molly last year.
Yeah. I remember when Adam. Played in his first Star Wars match. And I remember my thoughts was it's like, hey, they kind of needed somebody. And I said, well, I've always liked Star Wars. So I jumped in. I remember thinking, what are you doing? Star Wars I love Star Wars. I have a Star Wars show. I could tell you more about Star Wars than the average human being. I am not good in that league. Yeah. If I jumped into movie trivia Schmoedown, I'd be going to singles before I go into Star Wars. And I don't have a movie podcast. I have a Star Wars podcast. And it's still above my head. So I remember thinking Witt, what are you thinking? This isn't you can't dabble into this league. Dalte Dufresne, I was like, never mind. He belongs in this league. He just hasn't.
I remember Lost God before Dalte Dufresne. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm one of those people who casually defends the prequel trilogy before the Disney trilogy ever came out. So I'm like, shit, you can remember that guy. You shut my mouth on what your place is.
Sorry, I like Stark so much. I like it when he insults me. It makes me feel just amazing inside. If you want to drive 3 hours and fight me in the parking lot, Snark, just let me know. I don't think they'll let me in Canada, but you can come down here.
I mean, you guys can wait. You guys can wait until Spectacular or buy tickets to Scum and Villainy for the live taping shows, and then you can do your own fight club.
I forget what match it was last year. He didn't play, but he was managing, and he came. What I'm talking about? And
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember if it was a singles or an intergender.
Last night, Kaiser's mid-meal, Kaiser's corn. It was funny to see.
Yeah, I was talking
Was
over
it
you.
a zipper match?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think it was a zipper match
Yeah.
because I think it was right after they debuted as a team. By the way, they were a team once. Remember that?
Yeah, they were. Against the witching power.
What were they called?
It wasn't Misfits. Was it? No, that's
They were their whole thing was like a play on Mad Max or so.
yeah. They dressed up as Road Warriors. It was amazing.
I know Leo's in this chat. He'll he can. But even then, still with Wit. Before we talk about the other, why am I saying other? I would talk about the probably runner up of MVP of the dungeon. Wit did show as a manager his strengths in Star Wars from last year and this year, and it was the Misfits. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, I knew that Jay Washington was called the Misfits for like 2 seconds. Like it's
yes, that's why.
So I get it all mixed up.
Away from that. But
I feel like I need to take like a year off of the Schmoedown just to to clear my head because I got everything since the beginning of here because I came in during season 2 when it was still on the Schmo Store movie show, and it's all still up here. So
dude,
I need to
for
cleanse.
us doing this podcast, I'm constantly looking back at old Schmoedown matches every time we get to another person. So I'm always jumping between the Schmoes Notes, Collider, to now, season 7 and 8. I'm listening to the matches while I'm working. So believe me, so much of that's crammed in here.
So many times I was mad that I can't do your guys' show because you guys are just like I would just be like, Schmoes in the North is saying what their next show is, and it's like Mount Schmoedown, we're talking Tom. I'm like, I want to be on that. Or it's like, we're talking Smets. Are you kidding me? Like every time it was somebody who I love, I'm like, what? Come on, me. Like I remember everything about when that guy came in. Like, so I'm glad I could finally do one of these.
Before we go any further, I want to bring up this season 8.
Yes.
And look at the roster Kaiser got for himself.
Oh yeah, we were definitely going to talk about the roster he got. I mean, there's obviously, but still, this is one of the exceptions why Kaiser was a good manager. From season 7, everyone was clowning him about his choices of people he picked. But then the moves he made, getting who I want to talk about, Video Drew, but then he learns his lesson. I mean, he learns that even though he wants heavy IG, he realized he needs some top players before he can round out his roster. And what happens on that free agency pickup? He keeps Robert Parker. He gets Dan fucking Merle. And then he gets Ben, terrible at teasing Bateman. And then right from there at that draft, he gets killers immediately. Mara Kanape, he gets Molly Damon, Video Drew, Whitney Seibold. He picks Jericho, which felt to me like a personal pick for him. Then I
think that was an FU more than anything. I think he wasted a high draft pick just to flick off Roxy. And guess what? I get it.
Okay, let me ask you guys this.
As a Jericho fan, I thought that was kind of a wasteful pick. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ben.
If there was anybody that could get Jericho to play for them other than Roxy, wouldn't you think it would be Kaiser?
Oh yeah, I would.
Yeah, but he still didn't though.
Well, I know, he still didn't. Maybe Kaiser was thinking, all right, maybe I could get him to play for me.
I think it was. I don't know. As much as I love the guy, I think it was a not 100% thought up move. I think he just saw the name like no one's grabbed Jericho yet. Grab him, and he didn't think at all about the politics there. And I don't like talking crap about Kaiser, but that's what I think it was. I think he saw a name and he's like, Jericho would be perfect for us. Oh, we're great. He didn't think about how that how it would work out. Yeah.
You're not the only one. After Jericho made that pick, many people in the live chat were questioning Kaiser's decision. Even on the rundown, Brad and Frankie briskly talked about it. And even now, people are still wondering. Now that Jericho's back with the Stars, why the hell did he pick him?
Yeah, we
asking that.
Right there, that Del Rio pick. That's that money.
Del Rio, for damn sure.
I think
his nickname is Diamond, but that dude was a damn diamond in the rough. He always had these matches where he was close to victory, but then it slipped through his fingers. I mean, his matches against Paul Preston and against Chance show he's a damn good player, but he just had the worst luck. And now his recent match that he played getting victory, Kaiser was right to pick him up.
Yeah, I think they're gonna give him something heavy. I think he's gonna have a small chance at a little bit of a run pre-tournament. I think, but I don't know. Is it gonna be? Are we jumping right into tournament season? No more singles matches until the singles tournament after Collision?
I don't know. I mean, I know we're in the singles title. We got Irwin versus Merle coming up, and then depending on who wins between Marisol and Smith, there's another championship match. So we may. I mean, Christian may bring that tournament back again. That big, not the 32 person, but he might do another tournament.
Hold on. Then August 1st and August 14th, they were keeping 8 or 9 matches on both of those days combined.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Christian wants to get as much match as he wants live as possible.
All the single matches or all those team matches?
I think it's going to be a mixture. I mean, Christian, he has not been shy or adamant of saying he wants to get back to doing studio matches. Collision, since we're doing it right now, is going to happen. It wouldn't surprise me. The first, of course, Merle and Ethan have been proposed. It's going to be one of those matches. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a bunch of teams matches or some Intergeekdom matches lined up. And then maybe on the 14th, it's going to be a mixture of singles and Star Wars and maybe some teams. Like, who knows?
Oh, we did just see a little bit more push into teams, which I didn't think we were really going to get since we already got that tournament. But I really do feel like that teams tournament was just to kickstart teams this year. And all right, these teams can't all be 0-0. We can't do that. Like almost all these teams are new. Let's get some numbers, and now let's play some teams. And I think that's
in real time. We're getting some 0-1 players starting to get some matches again. Even some players haven't debuted yet. Because right now we're gonna get some players who had unfortunately who didn't play so well in the debuts. They're getting a match again before players who had a first one is getting a match. And going back in with finally at least with the dungeon though, I mean, it is fun. It is amazing how that change in strategy for Kaiser has really brought a lot of benefits in this season. Merle gets the belt back. Danger Zone puts up so many good points. Mara Knopik got the Intergeekdom belt early in the year.
Mara Knopik played the game of her life.
Yes.
It was one of the best games I've ever seen, ever. It's still in contention up here for Game of the Year, and it was the first game. Or
I know.
First PvP, and it wasn't the first game, but it's like the second one.
All right. Before we get carried away here, I definitely want to finally start talking. I want to talk about the person who really became a true fixture of the dungeon as well. That's Video Drew. I mean, the moment she got traded to the dungeon, she's immediately having these great promos these great intercut scenes with Kaiser. Her energy matches as well because Kaiser can easily bounce off of her. I mean,
it was her home. It was her home, and she didn't know it. Yeah.
And we saw, of course, season 7, not strong. It wasn't her first. She got put into the Ultimate Tournament. She came very close to beating Riley, but unfortunately, round 3 just did not work out for her as it ended. But she bounces back, beating Jen Kemp, playing completely perfect in her match. Honestly,
it was Jen Kemp who she played.
Well, in the 32 person tournament, her first match was Riley. But then she was the undercard to the Wildberry Civil War match.
Yeah, I forgot that was Jen Kemp. I thought that was Gray Drake. Was that later?
No, Gray and Stacy played each other in a different.
Gray and Stacy, woo! Yeah. All right.
Yeah, because she dressed up as Stacy for the match. Gray did.
Yeah. I love Stacy. I love Gray so much. But yeah, it was the Jen Kemp. It was the Jen Kemp when we all realized Video Drew is starting to take it serious. And that's what she said, was she was here to tell jokes and maybe get a couple questions, and then she had Tom to win. She doesn't have Tom anymore. And then that's when she went from being a fun player to a player. And I put it not all the Kaiser. I put a lot of it on her shoulders, of course, but I do think that
as someone
going to dungeon.
I'm subscribed to Beetlejuice Patreon. She is damn serious because not just those constant nerd chronic quizzes that she puts out on her channel. She really got serious about that.
Good.
I mean, I would have loved to have seen more of her team with Rick Hong though, because I liked how every time she was like, "You're my new Tom. It's new Tom here. Oh, hi, new Tom and I have something to say." And one thing I did love from season 7 that sadly is never going to happen was that rom-com exhibition match when she clearly not only creeped out Josh Makuga, but really teased this idea of her and Makuga playing a match against each other. Would have been so good.
Okay, 50. No, that does not mean that Tom was dead weight for her.
Oh my God!
No. Tom wasn't holding her back. Maybe emotionally, maybe she felt like she didn't need to study, but he wasn't the reason why she wasn't getting them right. But I know you're just joking around. I've already had to deal with 50 for an entire show today. I don't know if I.
My liver still remembers 50 from the Smash-a-thon.
Get rid of 50.
50 lives rent free in my liver from the Smash-a-thon, so I think it's all good here.
I thought you were going to say rent free at your house. I was like, what are you talking about? He lives in Israel. Like,
Here's a question for you. Talking about video true and the dungeon. If you had to pick out a teammate for her, who would you pick?
For Video Truth? Well, Whitney.
Yeah, Whitney makes the most sense because after that free look, I mean, Video Truth and Adam Witt could have made a great team. But there is nobody else I could see that would match Video Truth's energy, like the macabre energy she gives out more than Whitney Seibold, honestly.
Well, think about how, like, maybe not play-wise, but how good the energy of him and Mark Edward Hoyt was. And that's a lot of that, like, horror energy. And that's my baby is horror. And especially with the old school, like Eraserhead type stuff that he's already like alluded to being a fan of, get in that like really old school Suspiria type horror stuff. And she's a big Cronenberg fan. I mean, her name's
She's also a big fan of David Lynch as well. So I mean, already she can get into the weirdness. Let's not forget. In one of the free-for-alls, her background was one of the huts from Midsommar. So which was
amazing.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't even make the connection that Video Drew is a joke to Videodrome, and she used to say, "Long live the Drew flesh." Like she's constantly quoting Videodrome I said his name Cronenberg, and people are like, "Yeah, Video Drew." I'm like, you don't get that she's making this really weird culty horror reference that I love. Anytime she would talk on a Facebook, I would always do gifs of Videodrome under her. Like, yes.
How about this? How about this as a team? Video Drew and Adam Witt.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want the movie guy's curse to fall on my girl, though. I'm sorry. Let him get a couple wins. Shake the first off.
I will admit, after Looney Bin, Drew didn't have as much luck with teams herself. I mean, sure, one match with her and Tom her and Rick Hong doesn't do anything. But even then, right now we have yet to see if her and Whitney are going to be a team. We have yet to see that happen. I think obviously because of scheduling reasons, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if Video Drew during one of the Scum and Villainy live tapings is actually going to record a teams match. I wouldn't be shocked.
Also, how many factions? I'm thinking two in my head, but how many factions have two teams right now? Corruption, Sweat. Is there any other?
Don't they all have two teams?
They
all have.
That we've seen two active teams.
Well, doesn't Suspects have it? No, wait, it's just been lightning time so far. Oh no, wait, Final Exam. So that's Swag. I'm sorry. Wow.
I said Final Exam and midterms, and then Corruption, Deception. Those are the only that I can think of.
How about the exchange?
Blackjack and the Odd Couple, although technically Odd Couple.
Blackjack. Okay, we did see one thing in Blackjack. There has not been a secondary team for exchange because Barbarian has not played a teams match, and if he's not your team, than just fire freaking Gucci right now, right? You gotta get Barbarian in a team. I think Downtown Barbarian is the best team, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think that's why Ben. I think going back to, I wouldn't be surprised if Christian does start doing some live teams recording matches.
No.
They need to bring in secondary teams.
No,
well, like secondary just because of the second, not that there's less.
I know what you mean.
Have two teams.
Yeah, Shazam
And the freshman.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. You're right. And press room's looking good too.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost, but they're looking good.
No, they won didn't they win their match?
I got the notes right here. I thought Lightning Time won. No, Lightning Time. Oh wait, I'm mixed up.
No. Press room beat the Outsiders.
Oh, Outsiders, yeah. I thought it was against Lightning Time for a second. Third show today, guys, and I have a cold pizza upstairs that I've been able to like take bites of as I walk by. My brain's a little fried, and I started drinking the second I started talking to Jay.
No, you're not. Trust me. Soon I'm gonna have some yakisoba, like possibly hours on after this. Honestly, man, because I need something warm in my belly.
Yeah, I might microwave my cold pizza. There you go. Family's out of town. I'm not gonna cook.
You're right, 50. Barbarian does want to play in teams. It's just at least the question who's going to be his partner.
I misread that. I thought he said, I think Gucci and Barbarian. I was like, what? That would be the dumbest thing I've ever seen. What are you talking about?
Gucci.
Hey, he played for belts when he was part of a box office breakdown.
And he did a good performance when it was him and Bateman versus McWeeny and Guy, though. So
yeah.
But Christian has been adamant that no manager should play, and there's going to be no player managers. So Gucci is definitely going to be sticking towards being a manager. But going on forward, I mean, oh god, I do love the one thing when it comes to factions, how players can improve. And Video Drew is one of the prime examples on how players can improve in a faction. Even Zipper, when he came back in the dungeon season 7, showed signs of improvement. He became a sharper player, and he got sharper at Inner Geekdom. His match against Stacey Howard is still, without a doubt, a great match. Not because Stacey was able to pull a 5-pointer, but because Zipper was dominating in that match. It fell onto him to answer the question. And I liked how Zipper was gaining confidence too. Like, first he felt confident in singles. He's feeling confident in IG. Then him and Adam in teams. He went all the way to the third, last question against Ethan Irwin in that same tournament.
Didn't he beat Preston?
Yes, he did. He did beat Preston.
Yeah, that's what I was, because I had this weird bitterness towards Zipper. I don't know why. When Zipper first came in, I just didn't like his shtick, and I just didn't like him. And I wanted to join the Schmoedown just to beat Zipper. I was like, no, I'll take him on in all factions. I just want to beat him. I don't know why I had that weird thought. It was after a little while of him getting that improvement and him changing a lot of his character work and everything, where I completely turned around. I like Zipper now. I'm not going to talk crap about Zipper now. But there was a little while where I was like, any league, buddy, I will come in and I'll win.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't.
What was that, Ben? You have a question?
No, I just think Zipper is fun to watch.
Without a doubt.
And I think he belongs where he's at now. I think the time that he had with Kaiser really helped his gameplay a lot. But him and Winston, it's like watching two best friends bullshit. And that's always such a cool dynamic to watch.
And it does work, too, because I'll be honest, when Zipper tried to play mean, it really wasn't working that well. And the only time it did work was at the free-for-all when he came out with that big piece of cake and started eating from all the fans when he was coming down that aisle. That's how it worked. I don't know if Kaiser said it on here, but I remember Kaiser saying that's what kind of got him impressed with Zipper, was the fact he just had a piece of cake, and he just asked him, "You're actually going to take that out with you?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he did it.
That was great.
That was going through, but going in with, now we compare and contrast with the dungeon. Obviously, with season 7, really was not their year. Parker, who came out very strong with that knockout, ends up losing the chance in the second round of the Inner Geekdom tournament, and he was out for the rest of the year. Smets, who was originally going to play, I think, at a live event in Houston, then everything happened. He ends up playing against Chandru. He ends up losing the belts. Of course, with Video Drew having a back and forth. Kaiser really had, unfortunately, no strong singles player or strong teams in order to really leave an impact. So when his team, when his faction was dead last, it was obvious he needed to make a change. And Ben, from that picture you showed us, Kaiser made a change, and a big change it was. I mean, how the hell? I still ask myself, how the hell did he get Dan Murrell? Honestly,
Can I explain it to you, Mr. Payne?
Go ahead.
All right, I can explain it to you. Cool. Bateman and Dan, or Bateman and whoever. Bateman was looking for a team that didn't want to keep 3 people. And that's why you hear he talked to almost everybody. But he was looking for a faction that was guttable. And I don't mean that like it's just somebody who didn't do really good and they're looking for a retool. So he's like, I need a place that is only going to keep 1 person at most, where I can find the best player to bring with me. And that was, he talked to McQueenie for a while. He talked to Ethan Irwin. He talked to Paul Preston. He talked to everybody to get that guy. And it was the biggest fish. I'm going to take the biggest fish, and I'm going to walk into a place where there's 2 spots and with a good manager, which is multiple in here. And that's exactly what he did. And it just happened that the biggest fish he could get was Dan frickin' Murrell. And then he took Dan Murrell and he goes, Kaiser, here. And he goes, okay, I'll just keep Parker and then I'll just do the best I can. And I think that's how I saw it is it was going to be them or Sam or anybody who didn't have the best year last year. Anyone who wasn't frickin' Swag or Mertz with Shazam or Corruption. Could have been any of the others.
He was definitely never going to go to Corruption, Ben, because the fact that Corruption not only got their 3 people, but they made that trade with Kate to get Marisol back.
Yeah, they had 4 people.
And you talk about Roka, that whole 4th round Roka thing. Ben sure as hell was not going to risk himself during the draft in order to get put on a team to where he put in a B team or be put on the secondary team. He wanted to be the top guy, which is why it makes sense he goes to Kaiser. I mean, look, Kaiser was looking for killers as well, and Dan Murrell, after that whole thing with the Fin Stock Exchange, sure as shit wasn't going back to them either. And
no. I was surprised anyone did. I'm surprised Barbarian did. I was very surprised that he's stuck there. I thought he burned all those bridges. I thought Gucci burned them all.
I have one question.
Go for it.
Do you think there's any scenario where it would have been Bateman at World Cup with Kaiser?
No. I'm sorry. Sorry, I yawned for a second. Before that was a jerk reaction to me because I don't know. I'm still like I get Roka's character. I really don't think Roka would have gone to Kaiser, honestly. Roka likes. I don't know what it is, but I think he enjoys what he's doing with Tom. I mean, they had that rough patch, but he's kind of worked it out to where he can still be the general of the Fin Stock Exchange. And Ben, obviously, Ben tried last season with the exchange to placate everybody, to be the at least to play to please everyone. It didn't work for him. You saw what happened. Lost his championship belt, came so close against Dan Murrell retaining, but lost it again. Kaiser, obviously, Gucci, not there in his corner. And then of course with teams, he and Riley TKO to Shazam. And then just Ben wanted a change. And I don't think that change would have been associated with anyone from the exchange.
I mean, I'm surprised Roka even went back. I'm surprised everybody went back to him. But sorry, if you were gonna say something, Ben, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, so Nancy. We were on a show yesterday, and she popped in just for a second to check. Hey, if you want to come talk about Star Wars tonight, we could do a hat trick and go 3 shows. I would love to have you on, Nancy. Yeah. Let me know.
I'm actually curious to see you're going to talk about Star Wars because I saw last week's episode. I'm like, oh my god, I would have loved to have talked about those 2 characters.
Oh wait, well, last week was a Sith tier. Which one? Or you mean the Darth Malak Obi-Wan?
Yes, that one. I would have loved to have talked about Malik and Obi-Wan, honestly.
That was a really cool matchup, and it was one of the only ones that I didn't know who was going to win going in, and I pretty much just had to have my own words convince me somewhere. Tonight's match, I know who's winning it. I know who I have, period. I just know. But and that's how I usually am. But Malik is the heaviest hitter Obi-Wan can beat in my eyes. Like, that's about as heavy a hitter that a guy like Obi-Wan has a chance with, I think.
Well, I mean, Obi-Wan, I think Obi-Wan, he just has more longer, not just from the movies, but also in comments and then with the Clone Wars TV show. Like, there's much more with his character that you can derive to where he can't beat Malik. Where with Malik, you have
he's the perfect foil. Stay on target. Stay on target. Let's get back.
Target. You're right. It's still amazing that Dan and Ben are managed by Kaiser. And let's not forget that team's tournament. Kaiser did very well to keep these two on point because it was amazing. Honestly, I was still shocked how Danger Zone was able to get so close to that end. And, of course, they end up losing to Corruption. But still, their wins against the – no, they didn't play the press room. Who did they play? Oh, no, against Midterms and against Rushmore was incredible, honestly. Seeing how Dan and Ben were able to work well with each other, I mean, to me, Corruption really showed the flaws in their teamwork. Actually, no, Rushmore showed the flaws because Ben – using those repeats very early on. I mean, sure, it's safe. Sure, it proved they didn't need them in the third round. But even then, strategically speaking, it would have been smarter to keep one. And then he goes, oh, Kaiser said, hey, as long as we get our questions right, it doesn't matter if we have any JTs in the third round left. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. It sounds like you're throwing him under the bus, but also complimenting him.
It doesn't make me feel good saying this because I love the dungeon a lot. I was not impressed by Danger Zone, and even when they kept winning, I kept feeling like Rushmore was killing and Danger Zone was surviving, and there's a bad taste in my mouth from that round 2 where they had like a 5-point lead going in and they gave it up and played super conservatively. I was like, what are you doing, man? Go for the throat. And I get if you want to play conservatively, I just wouldn't. I wouldn't have done that. I would have killed. Like, or take a high risk.
Didn't they get martial arts for that second round?
Yeah.
No, I'm not being conservative with martial arts. It's either I know this shit or I'm going to multiple choice.
Well, and they kept saying, I think I know it. Then freaking do it then. When he's like, I think I know it, but we have a good lead. You don't know. You don't know how round 3 is going to go. Don't be playing. If you think you know it, do it. And it bugged me so much because it was throwing away a massive lead, and I lost it there. But
you're definitely right going back on it because even then I was kind of pissed off. I'm like, you're getting which Jackie Chan film? I'm like, oh my god! And you say you think you know it? Just say it because you sure as shit. If I got martial arts films, I'm not gonna sit around pondering to myself which film was Jackie Chan as a police officer going to visit his a relative in America the first time. It's Rumble in the Bronx, okay?
Yeah.
That's not anything else. Unless you think about Shanghai Noon, but technically his relative was killed in America and he traveled with him. Oh my god. I would not play
But anyways,
partner.
It is relevant just because I love the dungeon and I will forever love the dungeon. I don't love Ben Bateman. And that's a personal thing. I always call him Baby Boy Bateman. Like he rubs me the wrong way, but he's supposed to. That's his character. When I watch him on other shows, I don't feel that way. I can watch Action Guys, and I like everything Bateman's doing in Action Guys, or Action Industries. But just his character in the Schmoedown always bugs me, and Dan just doesn't have enough face to counteract it. And Dan just looks like the big thug standing behind the dude right now. And that's how I'm feeling. So their team's just not doing it for me. And it sucks because the dungeon finally has these giant weapons and I want to love it.
That's one of the reasons why I was waiting so much for the second team that I thought was going to be that I'm assuming is Video Drew and Whitney Seibold to make their appearance. That's why I thought when they had Molly Damon and Mara on there, I thought they got both divisions nailed down. And I was sort of upset that Molly didn't get to play in the tournament, but I still love the fact that Whit still got to prove himself very good against the Dragon Con against Thomas Harper and Burkett. I just felt that maybe we should have put Molly in that tournament instead of Burkett. Would Burkett have won against Demon? Maybe not.
He said straight up why. He said, they put Whit in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put Whit. And he said, we have another Star Wars tournament coming up, and I think he thought it's 2 players, and we still don't know if it's not or not. But he's like, we'll put Whit into this one. Everyone else is going to throw out their best players, and we're going to then go in with Molly and kill it later. And I still think that's what the plan is. Yeah.
That does make a lot more sense now that you are saying it. I guess when it comes down to although this season as well, Video Drew also had great matches as well. She got of course the whole she did lose to Marisol Makito, but she had a good match against. I thought her match against Elliot Dubray was very entertaining, honestly. She kept confusing.
Wasn't she calling him Makuga? Yeah.
Or Makuga, yeah, because that was her little nickname for Makuga.
Now we keep going back to this, but there is a third option to put Video Drew with, and it's David Del Rio now.
That's true. Yeah. Now that he's dropped Flickinger's out. Yeah, that's true.
God, can we not talk about
Jericho's gone, so technically he has an open spot available now.
No, he brought in 2 people. Somebody said it earlier. The smartest people here are in the chat, and I love that we got it's always us Dickie Doos, if you will, talking, and then the smart people are always.
That's right. Brandon.
Gerald.
Yeah, Battaglia. Okay.
Battaglia. God, I love other Italian names. I love it when I run into other big Italian names like mine.
Yeah. No, actually, you are right. David Del Rio would be a great pairing for Video Drew. At least knowledge-wise, though. Knowledge-wise.
Yeah. When you're talking about good singles players with good singles players, but that gets us into the door. How are they going to work together? Do straights, match up really well? That's the other things you have to talk about. And I just don't know. I don't really know what David Del Rio's weaknesses are. And so it's hard to know if they match up. And I just don't see their personalities matching up. Because David Del Rio's not edgy,
I think Video Drew is. I think she can blend with anybody, whoever she's teamed with.
True.
I mean, it would be fun. I would kind of enjoy that because come on, when she was facing Makuga, you can see how Makuga was really like not out of his element, but kind of a little uncomfortable there. But even then, Makuga was having fun working with her. Same with Brienne and Janine in that rom-com match. I do kind of think David Del Rio, he would kind of be the straight man to her. It really would be an odd couple, honestly. Like that's the definition of an odd couple.
And Nancy might be right. Again, the smartest people are in the comments. But I think Nancy might be right there, personality-wise. I think it would be really funny, and this would never happen. I think it would be great if David Del Rio went full Tom and didn't talk and just like hooded up and just like put your personality aside, let her personality do it, and just win. And just went full Tom.
That would be funny. He could make his character like an actor with method and try to be Tom. It would be perfect.
I wanted the method act, so I went and I found a dead body.
Yeah. His nickname is Diamond. It'd be hilarious if Drew in every promo she goes, well, I lost to Tom, but I got a diamond exchange. Now, this diamond is going to be difficult to wear around my hand, but I think I can be able to make it work. And then you just have David just go,
okay. My favorite shtick she ever did, and that's probably not true. If I think about it, it's got to be other. But I would love. I loved when she played against the Machine and then brought her WD-40. It's the funniest thing I've ever. It blew my mind because I'm like, who thinks of that? That was like, oh, I brought you candy too, and it was WD-40. And then she would talk binary at her or like beeps and boops.
Yeah,
by the way, Machine. Beep boop beep 11011.
Like I mean, it's obvious with the name Machine. You think, oh, it's like it's kind of funny because she's like Machine, but Drew, she really was the only person to really just dive head first into it. Just like with that's why I think it's so funny with her match against Dewberry. She just keep calling him Makuga because of wild berries, and she just goes, "Look, Dewberry, it's wild berry, so I'm playing Makuga. So Makuga, and especially the whole, oh, you're here not to officiate my wedding with Makuga. It can't be the best man."
And what she does is there's more than one way to be a heel, like to distract, like, and it isn't always just throwing out insults, but being goofy, or like what Zip was doing this week of like doing like a killing with kindness thing. There are other ways to throw your opponents off, and she has this really great shtick of being like out weirding them, of saying like things you just can't come up with, like can't conjure a comeback to, and it's brilliant. Yeah.
I want to say one thing. She was always one of the top characters of the Schmoedown, and now we're seeing her talent come up and maybe match her character with. And that is beautiful to see, and I can't wait to see what comes from this. And I do see a title match in her future. I don't know when, but I do see one in her future.
That's why I agree with the dungeon so far. Anyone that Kaiser's brought in, no matter what kind of match they play, you do see great potential in them to see them play for a championship, whether it be Star Wars, Inner Geekdom, teams, or singles. It's just all it takes is just one match for you to turn your opinion on somebody, and I've seen a majority of that come from the dungeon, honestly. And especially at the end of this season, I want to see Dungeon win the faction title because of the incredible work they have done. I mean, we'll see when this upcoming with these next upcoming Inner Geekdom and Star Wars tournaments happen. But already Kaiser has shown. Oh, go for it, man.
Remember, this has all just been preseason. Like as much as we don't like to think about it, we want to pretend like what we all have seen so far matters. Tournament season is what matters. Yeah. That's the point. Remember what Corruption had last year at this time, and then they went through the IG tournament with two players on either side and took it, and then Adam Collins got an extra match with the play-in and then went all the way. That could happen. That could happen with almost anybody. It's crazy.
I can't wait to see what comes next. And any final words, guys, about the dungeon?
God, I mean, I could keep going for another hour. I feel like this is like a Mount Schmoedown for like 9 people. I want to talk about all their careers.
Yeah, I felt that too, which is why it's gonna be tough going through all the rest of these factions. We do want to talk about the stars in their factions, but at the end, there's still so many other good people in there to where you just like you can't overlook any of them, even if they just played 1 or 2 matches. But God, but like just saying before with the dungeon, I mean, early they came way before the nuke, so even if the nuke didn't happen, the dungeon would have been one hell of a faction to keep your eyes on. But because of the nuke, the dungeon just went from being like this nice, like almost off-topic word that Kaiser would say at the end of his promos to really becoming a top 5, top 3 factions in, like, at least regarding season 7 moving forward. If we were talking about every faction, the dungeon would be trading between my top 5, honestly, with 5 Clubs still being at number 1. But dungeon would definitely be cracking it. They would either be dancing or cracking into the top 5.
They're probably my number 1, and I'm not sure which iteration's my number 1. Maybe just the OG. But now of all time, I mean. But if you look at just like all factions right now, Dungeon's my number 1, and they even were last year. And it's all because of Kaiser. I think Kaiser's my favorite. I'm not saying he's the best. I'm saying he's the best manager. He is my favorite manager, and if I could buy that guy a drink, I would. Like, if I could just sit and talk about our favorite Pearl Jam albums, like, that's all. I wouldn't even want to bring up the Schmoedown. I'd just be like, all right, man, his verse is better than 10. Let's do this.
Let me ask you this. Is this a serious thing? Looking at all these players, -1, and adding Smiths next year. This same team with Smiths is not the scariest team over Schmoedown.
Oh my god!
It's too heavy. It's like top heavy. Like it has to crumble. It's like Rome. Like no,
In a
you
way,
gotta.
It was like the Fins. It was like the early Finstock, the first year, the Finstock Exchange. So many heavy hitters, and everyone was focusing on the four, but they completely forgot about the others as well. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me by next if they don't win the faction title, it's gonna be hard for Kaiser to retain anybody from that division. I mean, I think he'd be lucky if he's able to draft Mara again. Honestly, it just shows up a terrible. He's on a dangerous slope here with Kaiser. He took a big risk just like last year. Right now, it's paying off for him, but it's got to be. He has to get to that finish line. He has to be first. Otherwise, oh my God, it's gonna be like, what is he gonna do again? Like all eyes will be back on him.
They gotta have. I don't know if they need the faction championship or whatever, like the best faction. But I do think they need medal. I think there's got to be at least 2 to 3 belts, like, or 2 to 3 championships as a full. Like you need to show it. You know, like there's got to be a reason why we put all these great teams together or great people together, and if it's not for the points, then it's for the medals. Like,
and I think they could, and I think they
definitely.
could, and I think they will.
All
right, well, I think this is the longest episode, if not one of
My bad.
No,
I have an ability where every time I'm on somebody's show, they're like, "Well, this is probably our longest." I'm like, I'm the common denominator.
Honestly, it's not. I still think one of our longest episodes was when we had Kaiser on here, or when we were talking with Brendan. Honestly,
right.
So believe me, so far, but this is still a good episode. Honestly, I was not keeping track of time. I was not keeping track of time, so this is fun.
Me neither.
Yeah, this is good.
All right, Tonko, my man, where can everyone find you?
Well, I'm gonna be on this channel in a couple hours, 8 o'clock. I'll be talking or 8 o'clock Central. Let's just say almost 4 hours from now, and I'll be talking about Plo Koon versus Darth Zana. That's our matchup tonight on Let's Talk About Star Wars with my co-leader. There you go. My co-leader, my gold pilot is Evan Bookshar. Gold leader is always on. We're having my personal, really close friend, the amazing Nerf Herder, who's been on multiple shows, talking, and I think it's going to be a really good show. Plus, Soda's not there, which means that I don't have a producer, which means no one can stop me. So, it's going to be we're going to set the world on fire tonight. So I really hope you guys show up.
I'm just thinking of this. I'm mentioning this. That might be the longer show of the day. That might be the longer show.
Guys, I just want to interrupt for a second. I just want to answer this quick question that in the comments from Nancy. I believe wherever faction wins, who's never won, they automatically get to retain 3 players. They don't have to wait till free agency. I can't wait, but they have the right to retain 3 players of their choosing. Just like the last one when Shannon won, she immediately just kept Collins, Mike, and Chance. So that's exactly what he can do.
I don't think that had anything to do with her winning. I think that she just knew that they were going to come back and grab him right away.
Or they can choose. They don't have to retain anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, before your internet goes all the way out, where can everyone find you? Oh.
Too late.
Too late.
At least, at least the last thing we see of him, he's smiling. That's a good last memory.
Why don't you leave and come back?
I did that. I was seeing if I could help him. Ben, do you want to say your goodbyes?
Yeah. So you can find me at Ben_Radio on Twitter. You can find me on this channel every Thursday on Shooting the Breeze, every Friday on Recapping the Past, every Saturday morning on Get Ready, and every Saturday right here on Mount Schmoedown. I don't remember who we're doing next week, but it will be another good one. So, uh, and we have Ryan back. Ryan, are you back?
Hey!
Just when we're getting to closing, my internet decides to crash out on me again.
Right, hurry up and say goodbye.
Yeah, say
Okay. I'll be quick. I'll be very quick. Okay, everyone can definitely find me here on Mount Schmoedown every Saturday throughout this July and August, as we're going to be talking about factions. And anytime Schmo the North does the Schmoedown night in Canada, you'll occasionally find me there as like a surprise guest star or a surprise like co-host. Other than that, you guys can find me here. I have a wrestling podcast, but we're currently on a break at this moment. But even then, go on to Spotify, Apple, Podbean, and Anchor. Find the podcast, Wrestling Rambles and Rages. Check it out. If you enjoyed it, hopefully you'll get. Once we get back up and running, we're going to start throwing out more episodes. Other than that, that's it.
All right. And I already said where you can find me, and we'll see you next week.
Smash
Bye.
Cancer.
Smash Cancer, Smash Ready, and all that good stuff.